The short film that you will now see is the first of a series about extraordinary men and women who dedicated their lives to help the children and people of Thailand. This first one is about Father Larry Patton, a Redemptorist priest who spent more than 40 years in Thailand. But let him tell you the story of his life.
Okay, I was born in 1937 in the city of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Born on the west side in Sacred Heart or St. James's Parish. I was baptized in St. James's Parish. But when I was 2 years old, my mother and father moved into their own house in the northeast part of town in the Redemptorist Parish of St. Alphonsus. When I approached 8th grade, I went to the minor seminary, which was in Kirkwood, Missouri, and spent 6 years there, high school and 2 years of college. After the minor seminary, I spent 1 year in DeSoto, Missouri, where our novitiate was, and took my vows on August 2, 1958. From there, I went to Oconomowoc, Wisconsin for 6 years of philosophy, theology, and scripture, canon law. That's where I was ordained in 1963. I came here, and I landed in June 25, 1965. I think it was about 5:30 in the evening. The airport was the old airport, and the road in was a 2-lane road into the city. Very, very different from today. We have a big parish in Bangkok, Holy Redeemer Parish, which is a multinational English-Thai parish, a lot of services. So I was there for a brief period of time, and maybe a week or so. I couldn't get into the language school right away because it was midterm. Father Ray was already up country. He had finished his language studies, and he was up country in pastoral work in a place called Ponsung, where it seemed they always put the new priest. They would put him there because it was a big parish and needed a couple priests. So the resident pastor would be there, and then the younger guy would go as an assistant. So that's where he got his first pastoral experience too. I met him in November of that year, because in November the Redemptorists always have their annual meeting. And it's usually a fun time. It was more of a fun time in those days because the majority of the Redemptorists were in the Northeast, and it was hard living. There were no creature comfort. So going to movies, going out for a steak or a beer was a big thing. So November we'd have lectures and things like that were useful, but we would also come down and have a good time. So I was going to language school at the time because I entered in language in September of '65. And in November, they all came down, and Father Brennan went out of his way during that period to take me around Bangkok. And took me to see Chinatown, took me out at night too to see Chinese movies, and explained everything to me. It really took me under his arm. And so they asked me to go up in November. That's where I encountered my first places you had no electricity and bad roads. You have to walk in during the rainy season, walk most of the day, and carry your supplies in, on your head or your back. And in Ponsung, the big village, we had a kerosene refrigerator. It's got a little stove underneath, and you keep it topped up with kerosene. In the main village, it was quite nice, but in the other ones, it was very primitive. Either sleeping in people's houses or in a rented room or shack next to the church. The roads was so bad, people didn't get a chance to go to the hospital very easily, and there were a lot of diseases. So some of us studied medicine as an accompaniment to our ministry, and things began to develop. And I went up to the northeast, to Khon Kaen, to take over the leper work. We were an NGO. We had a clinic, Ban Noi Sam Liam, and I inherited the work from Father Richard Thiele. He wasn't the first one to work with the lepers, but he developed it tremendously. And I was there for almost 8 years. That was a most rewarding work, very difficult work. The disease became resistant to each one of those because the doctors would use one and it would become resistant, and the disease would progress. The World Health, they finally said, well, we got to hit it with three at one time, and bingo. They asked me to go back to Bangkok, build a parish in the suburbs of Bangkok, a place called Bang Na. At first I came down as rector of the community, which I still am, and pastor of St. Nicholas Church. And then the following year, Father Banjong resigned from the Father Ray Foundation, and I took over from that. Mike Shea says, "You're going to live there, you'll die there." You know.
For 44 years, we were pretty much together. We were up country together. We were separated a lot, but we had a fine time together. We jogged together. We worked together. We preached together. We lifted weights together. We drank beer together. And at the end, when Larry was sent down to Pattaya, I'd go down there and visit, see all the great work they were doing down there as I was trying to start stuff up here at Sinelli House. He was a leader, and I've always been kind of a follower, so he was fun to be with. He really was fun to be with. You could drive from Nong Khai down to Pattaya all day, and you never ran out of anything to talk about. It was always interesting, whether you're talking about theology or sport or policy, anything. Larry was knowledgeable. He's one of the best we've ever had in Thai language, and he had a wide range of interests. He truly was a very, very remarkably brilliant guy. He was a man of terrific talent, and he was using his talents to his utmost until the day he got sick. And the day he got sick at that time was not good for the Redemptorists. It was not good for Pattaya. If I fault God at anything, it was poor timing, because Larry had a lot of good years left in him. So he was a type of friend that was there any time. If something happened, I could pick up the phone to call him, or if he got discouraged down in Pattaya, he picked the phone up and phoned me. So we got along together very well. We were, I think, probably the only thing you say is we were the best of friends. Even now, when something really outrageously funny happens, I automatically think of phoning Larry, and you realize he's not there. It's a hole in your life. Even when I'm working out, I'll be between sets. I'll be walking back and forth. I can imagine Larry. He was a great pacer between sets. He'd do something, then he'd pace. He'd pace and he'd talk. He made workouts very, very interesting and a lot of fun. So something like that you miss. The older, I think, when you really get old and you miss a friend, there's not going to be anybody that's going to be there to take their place. But you'll always treasure the friendship that you had, and thank God for the opportunity to be a friend of a man like Father Larry Patton.
I mean, I'm very. I would love to go back to the Northeast, but I wouldn't for anything give up the children and the handicapped, because it's working with gospel people. Well, outside of the work with the lepers, I've never been closer to God's people than I am now. And I mean, it fits in with our Redemptorist charism or our mission as bringing good news to the poor and most abandoned. And these children have been abandoned.